Hey guys, this time the quick speed shot. Bam! It's like 7 months in the making. I almost died in the meantime, but here we are. We're about ready to put the Quick Performance 9-inch in the L37 Buick. It's been a long time coming. We're finally going to do it. I wanted to do it before the Syracuse Nationals. Didn't get around to it, but now I'm back. Last time I showed the rear end or we put it together was way back a few months ago. This is a Quick Performance 9-inch. It's from Quick Performance, obviously, and it's a 68 to 74 Nova 9-inch because that's the rear end that's in this car. I ordered it with a 3.00 Tru-trac limited slip differential. It's got 11-inch Ford brakes. It's got a 5 4 3/4 bolt pattern because it is a replacement for a Nova, and this car has the 5 3/4, 4 3/4, 5 4 3/4 bolt pattern for the Chevy bolt pattern. You can order it with the axle pads already on if you had a stock Nova replacement. They put the axle pads on at Quick Performance. But since this is a custom application, I had them ship the pads loose. So we're going to set the rear end in the car, measure it, get it centered up, get the pinion angle set. Now the rear end that's in here is like I said, a Nova. It's a 10 bolt, and it's got a really tight posi. Well, here's the Schrader valves over here. Really tight posi. It's a really good rear end. It just, I wanted the 9-inch for the 400 horsepower small block that's in here now. This thing's got old school air shocks in it, like Gabriel hijackers or something like that. So we just had to let the air out of them so we can unbolt them. All right, here's what we're working with. We got the 10 bolt in there, and you can see it's on a 1-inch lowering blocks, the aluminum blocks over here. But the springs sag quite a bit, so the car sits kind of low when the air shocks, they bleed down after a while. These air shocks are like 30 years old. Well, actually about 40 years old. They've been on it since the late 80s. So they bleed down a little bit, and I think I'm going to not use the 1-inch aluminum lowering blocks when we put this back together. Oh, look at that. Spring is splayed out there. The lower leaf needs a clamp slid off it. So let's let the rear down. I got the car on jack stands. Let's let the rear down some. See how far it droops. Oh, it comes way down. Holy moly. Holy shamoly, it comes way down. Holy crap. This is unbelievable. Why are those springs so sacked out? Holy cow. I'm going to have to jack that back up some. Let's jack her back up. Take the wheels off. I did not expect that. Well, the main reason I'm changing this rear end is because it's got 373 gears, and that's no good. And here's another reason. It's got the smaller, of course these look like 10-inch brakes. We're putting 11-inch brakes on. I thought for some reason this had like 9-inch brakes, but they look like they're 10s. Oh no, they are 9.5-inch, max diameter 9.5. So this has like 9.5-inch Nova brakes. But we're going to get rid of all that and put in the Quick Performance comes with 11-inch Ford-style brakes. And one of the bonuses, we're going to get half-inch wheel studs and get rid of these baby little GM 7/16 wheel studs. This Ford 9-inch is rated for about 600 horsepower. I'm not sure how many foot-pounds of torque. The blueprint engine that's in this car I just put in is 400 horse, 426 pounds of torque. I bet a stock Chevy 10 bolt is probably right maxed out at 400 horsepower. And the thing that sucks with these are their C-clip axles. You break an axle, the axle immediately comes out of the car. The Ford is retained out by the hub surface with a bearing retainer. So you break an axle, it stays in the car unless you snap it off right at the hub. So that's one of the other main reasons I want to get rid of this. Alright, probably the first thing we're going to do is get the drive shaft loose and the emergency brake cables loose. I wonder if I can... Oh, yes, there we go. Alright. I'm going to unhook the cables by taking them off here. Get them out of the way. Let's see, oh, they got a bracket holding them to the frame. We're just going to let them ride with the rear end for now. When we take the rear end of the car, then we'll get them out. I assume these are like Chevy ones. I kind of wish I had a second wrench. But we also need to take the air shocks off. Oh. Oh boy. I like to leave the shocks hanging in the car. Ooh, that has some, what do you call that? Stuff that locks together. Can I get, oh yeah. Oh, yep. Okay. That guy will just kind of ride there. Excellent. So these are like, I think, hijackers or something, and they gotta be 40 years old, but they're still working. They leaked down a little bit over the winter and stuff, but they still work good. Come on. Okay. Okay. They still got a little bit of air in them, but that'll. Oh. Huh. Anyways, they'll ride where they're at. Oh man. Oh, there we go. Whew. I'm hoping to leave the drive shaft just hanging in the car without pulling it out so I don't puke transmission fluid all over the place. That would be a bonus if we could do that. Also be a bonus the lights wasn't shining right in my eyeballs, but it is what it is. Everything is grungy under here. The 400 that was in it leaked oil, and the whole underside of the car is coated with it. At least it won't rot away, I guess. Acts like cheap undercoating. Now, how did we do this before? Here we go. Oh boy! Mercy sakes. I want to round these off. But man. Like I said, the Ford brand, I believe, uses U-straps or U-bolts to hold the deal in here. The Chevy's got the straps. Didn't need... Get this guy out of here without losing everything. Okay. Everything is grungy. Let's get some tape here on our U-joint. If I could see, the light is right in my eyeballs. You'll have that on these big jobs. All right, That guy will kind of just ride right there. Before we pull the diff out, I just want to get a measurement on the pinion angle. I just want to get a rough measurement. We're going to check this off the transmission because I'm not sure what my dad's done with the pinion angle here. I want to make sure that's good, but we want like a equal and opposite unit here. So we got two, if you can see that, we got 2.8 degrees up. So you want that pretty much parallel to the transmission, equal and opposite. So the transmission is 2.8 degrees down. You want the rear end to be 2.8, 2.7, 2.8 degrees up. And then some people say with leaf springs you should have the pinion down a couple degrees difference. So when you're under load, you know, the rear end's going to torque up under load and then go down under braking. So if you're under load, it's going to pick it up a couple degrees. You know, so instead of setting it at 2.8, if the transmission's 2.8, you'd want to set the rear end maybe at like 1.8 or something, put a little bit of difference in it. But I usually set them up looking at each other and then just go from there because the thing's going to torque around and do what it wants. You just don't want it riding, you know, like 10 degrees up and 10 degrees down, so you're 20 degrees out of phase. You don't want nothing like that. So right now we got 2.8 degrees up, so we'll just remember that, 2.8 up. I also think these spring plates are on upside down. He made these bolt-on shock mounts, which bolt on. This is like a Chevy style deal, but I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be down. He's got like some rubber up in here, and then there's rubber between here. Like, this would be sandwiched to this plate if you didn't have the lift block in there. But I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be the other way around, with this part looking down. I think this is the stock like Camaro Firebird or Nova mount, lower mount, I guess. Pretty sure, but I think it wants to be, well, we're going to put it back the other way, so this is sitting flat under the spring because the spring perch is going to be flat on top of the spring and this will be under the spring, and we're going to do it like I've always done it. This could be putting a bind point on these springs and making a stress point that could break these springs eventually. So I'm going to see if we can just buzz these loose, and we'll let the rear end back down. Oh, they're loose. Look at that. Oh boy. That's not good. They're like barely over finger tight. Oh. Huh. It's because of that rubber isolator. Come on out of there. Come on, there we go. I don't know when these blocks got put in here. Some point. Oh. Huh. Yeah, you see this where it's shiny? That's been rubbing on the spring. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, we got these rubber isolator here. Thingamajigs. Huh. That's kind of tore up a little bit. Ow! Dang it. Ah. Ouch. Oh. Okay, that's okay. That's free. That's free there. All right. Ouch. That was my hand. Yeah, I think. Pretty sure these. Yeah, see how shiny that is? That's been wearing there. I'm pretty sure we're going to put these back on. I'll switch the mounts over. We're going to put these on with some grease, just like that, to the bottom of the spring, like every other spring mount thing that's ever been made, because I'm not a fan of rubber isolators on leaf springs allowing everything to rock around. I know they do it for like comfort and stuff. I don't know if these are stock GM or what these rubber are, but you know, they get tore up after a while. You know what? I think these were supposed to go in like this, up in here. And maybe you got another set for the bottom. Yeah, that's oh, there is one up in there. See, it's all deteriorated on top of the block. So I guess you get these sandwiched in here, and then maybe, you know, you would sandwich it with a plate so it was mounted in rubber. I think that's what happened. This would bolt down tight to here, and the rubber would be sandwiched in between, so you had a little bit of motion, and he flopped it upside down for whatever reason. But we're gonna put it back together without the rubber. Grease this up really good. Yeah, I feel it wore into the spring. Shoot, especially into the front, wore into the spring some. We're gonna put it together without doing any of that nonsense, and solid mount this guy right to these springs so we got maximum action. What do you think the chances are we can wrestle this round out of here? Go ahead and jack her up. Take the weight off this springs. Okay. Shoot. I need to get under the diff some more. Careful. Oops. How about now? There we go. I'm thinking which way is got more room and get this guy jacked up enough where we can pull it over the springs, if you see what I'm saying, and kind of like sashay it out from under the car. I think that would be the hot setup. And we'll just kind of do this ish. Okay. Am I over the rainbow yet? Not quite yet. Okay, go down a little bit. Oh, easy. And we by enough to clear it. Oh, not quite. Shoot. Oh. Careful. That was unfortunate. Oh no. Can we get out this way? I really don't want to have to take these leaf springs down because I'm afraid the bushings are going to be all funky. I'd really like just to try to push this guy. If I can get it up and over. Oh yeah, I think it'll go. Oh, don't tear up the backing plates. Let's Let's get the jack back under here. See if I can get some purchase. Oh yeah, there we go. Boom. Yeah, there we go. A little bit more. What are we hitting on? Shocks are in the way, but I don't really want to take them off the upper mounts because I have to deal with the air hoses. But can we just... Oh. Yeah, that'll be... I think it'll come out if we can just get enough action. I think we're over the spring now. Oh yeah. Think so? Going down. There we go. Oops, oops, oops. Oops. What are we... Oh, the shock grabbed it. Dang it. Almost there. There we go. Just gotta run her backwards. Get out of there. Kinda coming out on its own. There we go. Look at that. Oops. Oh man, this thing is grungy AF. Lost her bolts here. Let's, before we go any further, let's verify that everything is okay. Like width-wise and stuff. This is set up for a Nova application, so everything should be the same. Man, I'm filthy. This rear end is grungy. The whole back of the car is grungy from years of oil leaking. You can tell how much bigger the brakes are. I was more concerned about where the pinion came out, but it looks like they're both offset to the passenger side. The X member in the frame is kind of tight for the drive shaft, but we're good there. One thing I do want to measure is the, I'm curious from the center of the axle tube to like where the drive shaft goes. I'm interested in what, if the yokes hopefully are the same. That's about 12 inches. And that is, ooh, it's shorter. Shoot. Am I going to have to get my drive shaft remade? I hope not. That's like 11. Dang. That's like 12 and a half. Shoot. The drive shaft tube might be... I don't think I can pull it out of the out of the transmission an inch and a half. Dang it. Well, we'll find out once we put it in there, but not looking good so far. Not looking good. Are the tubes the same? That should be like both 3-inch tubes, or 2.5. 3. So let me get something I can stick through there so we can eyeball it for sure. What can I stick in there? Some little pipe? Something? Pin or something? This big nail. Alright. This will just give us some kind of baseline dimension. From there to the centered tube is 12 and a half. From there to the center of the tube is 11. Dang it, 1.5 inches shorter. 10 bolts got a huge freaking stick out. I'm going to have to get the drive shaft tube lengthened. Damn it. That's freaking $200 extra. Right there. Son of a bee sting. Wasn't planning on that. Dang it. I would have thought it would have bolted right in. Well, can't have nothing nice, I guess. Let's go ahead and just measure faceplate to faceplate on this. Just a 59 and a something. This should be the right, because it's meant to bolt right in. Yeah, 59 and 59 and a half, 59 and a half. That'll bolt in. Perfect. All right. So, drive shaft issue. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is the 9-inch housing is a little bit wider. I see my dad butchered the shock crossmember out of the way, but that was more like up in here-ish. And I see something happened. This brake line is kind of smashed. Like, I wonder if it hit here. Well, actually, I wanted to try to see if I can clean this hose off and get a part number on this hose. I assume that it's probably a GM hose because it's like on some kind of factory bracket. And there was numbers. Hopefully they don't rot away here. And they're kind of hard to see. 0693 DOT GY. What a part number, bro? It just says DOT on it. Dang it. 0893. So that's 33 years old. We're gonna get a new rubber hose just because we can. That would be the right thing to do because rubber hoses don't last forever, and it's 30 years old plus. That's a lot. So that's the next thing's gonna be try to weasel this thing in here. I've got these heavy-duty spring pads that came with it. So first of all, I'll make sure that they fit around the bolts and the springs. And I left some paint off. I measured kind of where these got to go, and I left to put some paint on the axle tube so I could kind of set this in the car and set it where it had to be, and then tack it without grinding a bunch of paint off and stuff. Alright, I had noticed another fail. I got looking. I mean, man, this yoke seems wider than that yoke. Because it is 1310, 1330. I have a 1310 and 1330 Moog conversion U-joint. If the drive shaft was the right length, I could just change the rear U-joint out and go from the 1310 drive shaft to the 1330 U-joint to pick up the rear end. But since the tube is too short, that's not going to help me. So what I'm going to go do is go to the drive shaft shop. And last time when I took all the parts for the C10 drive shaft and had the guy weld it together, he's like, just next time just bring me the yoke and we'll build the rest out of the parts we got here. Instead of like, it was kind of like, I don't know, I took them all the yokes and the tube and stuff, and it's kind of like bringing your own steak to the restaurant and just telling them to cook it, I guess. They're like, we got the parts, we'll just, just bring the yoke. So what I'll probably do is see if I have another Turbo 350 yoke. This has got a Turbo 350. Not sure if it's long shaft or short shaft. Probably short shaft, Turbo 350. But we'll pull the drive shaft out, then I'll look at my other drive shafts and see if I have a yoke I can steal off one of the used ones. We'll keep this drive shaft intact since it's a newer one all complete, and then I'll take them the yoke, or I'll tell them which yoke I need. And just have them build me a new drive shaft with 1330 U-joints front and rear, and we'll go from there. But great. I thought it would bolt right in. Apparently not. Alright, it's the next day. I got the rear end out here just cleaned up for you guys to look at. You can see it's actually painted gunmetal gray like the chassis of the car. I cleaned the most of the rust off the differential cover. And it's 68 to 74 Nova, 10 bolt posi, 373 gears. And I'm going to take it. We got a swap meet
coming up. I'm going to take it there and try to sell it. Good posi 10 bolts got to be worth $500. And like I said, I'm not a Chevy rear end guy whatsoever. I don't like them because they're C-clips. Somebody's building something's going to need this, so I'm going to sell it. I'm pretty firm on the price because that rear end in there costs $2,200 to replace it. Speaking of that, let's scratch it all up and try to get it under the car. I pulled the drums off because I can't get it under the car on the jack. I got to slide it on the floor, which is going to skin the paint off it a lot. But guess what? We'll just re-rattle can it once it's in the car for the final time, I guess. And we'll do what we can do, but it's got to be on the floor to get under the gas tank. And then maybe I can get it up on the jack to get up over the spring. Well, I'm going to have to get it up over the springs, but this thing is going to get scratched up a lot. But it was easier to paint it like this than it was paint it later on when it was done. So whatever. Let's. It's got a jack pad on the bottom, so it'll slide. It'll just take the paint off the bottom of these. Maybe. Oh no. Oh god, it doesn't want to slide at all. This thing is heavy. What? How can it not slide on the floor? Just slide on the stupid floor. Oh god. It is way heavier than that 10 bolt. It's got to get under here and get over the spring. Hoop. This is a nightmare. I wish the car was higher up in the air. Oh, oh God. I need the jack to pick this up. It weighs too much. How am I gonna, I don't dare take the springs apart and drop them down because I don't want to wreck the bushings. I need to be able to crash out and swear at this, so I'll put you on time lapse so I can wrestle this thing in here. That way I can say whatever the F I want to say when I'm putting it under there. What a struggle. I'm dying. I'm sweating like crazy. I got it in here. We got multiple issues we got to fix. Number one, I just got it clamped in here. It's not, the pinion angle you can see is looking down right now. when the springs are sagged down, the pinion angle is up, but the thing moves so much when you jack it up in here. I'm gonna have to try to set the pinion angle under load here, I guess. I'll have to bang it up and tack it. I want to jack the suspension up so I can measure off the frame side to side to get it centered. But we got bigger problems, or well, more problems, because that 10 bolt had the brackets that came down, you know, inside the U-bolts. The U-bolts are super wide and they're super wonky, so I've got to weld onto the spring plates, which I switched around the right way. I got to take the brackets off and put them up to the top because that's where they were for the shocks up there. We'll do that later. I've got to weld some, you saw me in the time lapse, I had a piece of C-channel. I want to weld something to the tops of these plates to space out, to kind of like lock on the spring and keep the plate from getting twisted, because this thing will twist around, especially the shock pushing on it sideways. It'll twist this and get the U-bolts all screwed up. So we're going to have to have the U-bolts you want to have something grabbing the spring. So either the U-bolts, or in this case, I really can't re-drill this or slot the holes. So I'm going to have to weld some like angle iron or something to the top of this to make essentially a C-hat, which will grab the spring, and then the spring, it can't twist on the spring, and then the U-bolt's going to be outboard like this, so it'll be fine. But right now you can see the pinion is down, so I'm gonna take the jack out from under the thing and maybe put some jack stands under the springs so I can keep the springs squished up to where they got to be. It's almost ready to take the weight off the jack stand, so it's pretty much kind of at ride height. The springs flatten way out, so I'll have to put load under here so I can hold the springs, and then I could loosen these up a little bit and roll the rear end up, and we might have to use a mallet, knock it either side. It measured out pretty close, like within the 1/16 of an inch from the spring hanger to the step on the axle tube when it was all the way sagged down, but there was a little play in the spring, so now it's jacked up. I want to measure off the frame here from the side of the frame, put a straight edge down here, measure to the backing plate both sides, and make sure it's dialed in. It should be pretty much symmetrical dimensions from the backing plate to the axle pad, but we got to get the rear end centered in the car. I should hang a wheel on it too and see what it looks like. Alright, let's use this plate for a straight edge. Let's go from the back of the plate, so it should be the edge of the frame, until I'll line it up on the hole. So that's 3 1/8 to the front surface of this. So we'll do the same thing on this side. I got 3, can't see it, can't see, lights, it's terrible in here. I got 3, and that can't be that close, can it? Let's try it again. It looks like it's like right on the money. Yeah, I got 3 1/8. That's dialed right there. That is dialed. How did I get that lucky? Let's is there any way I can, let me just do a precursory measurement right off of here, I guess. 3 1/4 from right center to center, 3 1/4. Check the other side. Three and a quarter. The thing, I don't believe my luck. Finally, we got some good luck. The thing is dialed perfectly symmetrical between the frame. That's awesome. So that makes me feel good. Now all we got to do is set the pinion. I'm going to take a Sharpie and I'm going to mark above the axle pad. I'm going to mark on the rear end, so when I spin it loosen it up and spin it a little bit, it won't, what am I trying to say? It won't get side to side, but I'm just going to barely loosen these up. We're going to put jack stands under the frame, under the springs, so the springs can't settle. And then we'll loosen this up a little bit and take the jack and just kind of roll it with the jack, and then we're going to tack these bing bing, and it's going to be good. Another pus bucket. Holy schmoly. Yeah, that's dialed. That is dialed. Like I think I mentioned before, now we got 1/2-inch studs, which are awesome. Chevy, I don't care what you Chevy guys say, 7/16 wheel studs are junk. Mopar and Ford ran 1/2-inch. I don't know why Chevy used 7/16. Freaking, what do they save, like 8/10 of a pound off the car by doing that? It's stupid. Freaking 1/2-inch is the way to go, so that's good. This wheel is still going to be lug centric. It's pretty close to the center, but man, that fits nice. The tire fits where it was. This is the same width that the Nova rear end was, 60 1/4 hub face to hub face, so our tire clearance is exactly what it was before we started all this monkeying around. So it looks good to me. That's about ride height-ish. When the air shocks are pumped up, you can just see the tire in there. Like I said, these springs could benefit from another leaf to make them a little bit stiffer is what should actually happen. Okay, let's get the pinion angle here. I use this block of wood to jack it up, and because I got tension on the U-bolts, it cranked the rear end up and it's kind of staying where it's got to go. I measured off the transmission. It's different than it was before, and the rear end's different than it was earlier in the video because I jacked the back of the car up some more, but the transmission yoke is 4 degrees down. So right now I think I'm about 3.8, 3.7. Well, 3.8 up. So, like I said, I was going to leave it maybe a degree or 1/2 degree down compared to the transmission. That way, it's when it puts a little bit of load in it when you're driving the car. Yeah, 3.8. When you're driving the car, it will pick up and make it closer to the same angle. Yeah, 3.7, 6. All right, about 1/2 degree-ish. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to tack the mounts here to the housing to hold them. I also moved the brake line. I'm going to take that brake line bracket and move it over to this cross member, and then have the hose come off and loop down, probably weld a stud to the back of the housing here, bolt on the T for the hose, and have the hose loop and go over here. Up there, it was like in a weird angle and in a crush zone. And I thought about trimming this cross member some. It's kind of close to the rear end on this side. I don't think it'll hit it because of the air shocks and stuff. That's not going to allow the car to collapse that far over bumps. But I might try to get in there while the rear end's on there, get in there and nibble some of that out, and give myself a little bit more room so it doesn't hit the housing. I also noticed that the air shocks, my dad had them crammed like way up, almost collapsed travel with the mount when the mount was up on top. So I'm going to leave the mount on the bottom. These things pull way out. They're not even extended all the way now. So I think they extend way down. So we're at, I had to pull it. I'm going to leave the mounts on the bottom. It puts the shock more like in a mid-travel. There's some up and down on the top of the shock, plus the air bladder in here. So these things are pretty long. They're like Skyjacker or whatever they are, or Gabriel hijackers. So I'm going to leave these mounts on the bottom. But let's go ahead and get this tacked in place with the pinion angle where it's got to be. And then we'll pull the rear end back out of the car. Actually, maybe I'll tack it and I'll get a dimension I'll slide the drive shaft back in and see just how short it is. Because, like I said, I think it's 1.5 inches short. And have to take the drive shaft. I would like to get a whole new one made of like 1330 U-joint yokes on both ends, but that's going to be $400 probably to have that made, and I don't really have $400 extra right now when I've got a good drive shaft that's, it didn't break the 1310 drive shafts or U-joints are in here, so I might just have them make a new tube,
maybe they can put a 1330 yoke on the back half of the transmission, so I'll have 1330 U-joint on the back half, and then just have the 1310 U-joint on the front. Or we could do a 1330-1310 combo in the back, and to just get to the transmission yoke. I don't know, I'll figure it out. I'll talk to the transmission shop and see how that goes, but it is what it is. I'm going to drop that off tomorrow so we can finish this video up, get it made. I got to order the brake hose and stuff, but this is a project and a half. I thought it was literally going to like almost bolt in, and it's a little more work than I anticipated, but that's all right. I did it. I broke down and undid the leaf spring so I wasn't going to fight that thing out from under it again and rip the paint off it 15 more times. So actually the bolts came right out, no problem. So I've got the rear end down. I tacked the spring pads to the axles, or to the axle tubes. So we're ready to unbolt the U-bolts, back this guy out of here. I don't want to burn this all on all at once. I don't want to warp the tubes, so we're going to let her cool down. There's no oil in this rear end right now. When we put it back in the car, we're going to fill her up. But it does have a drain point here. This is a jacking pad, so you can jack under the car. But you can see the absolute carnage of dragging it under the car without taking the springs down. So it was my bad. So we're going to weld her up, wire wheel it down, paint it, and then I'm going to flip it back around and add a stud for that brake line and I don't know, whatever else I need to put on here, but I think that's about it. And I'll order the emergency brake cables and the brake hose and stuff tonight from Rock Auto, so they'll be coming. Just going to let this guy cool down for a minute before I go and get it too hot, like I said. So I'll finish welding her up here. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Getting her burned on there pretty good. These things are pretty beefy, they'll burn on. There's that jacking pad like I was talking about. But awesome. Alright guys, because of the drive shaft getting made and stuff, I've been editing the video as I've been making it, and I realized this thing is going to be like longer than Star Wars. We're not going to get the rear end done in one episode, so I'm going to cut it off here. Got the rear end painted, the brake line did come in, and in the next video I'm going to make the brake lines or get the rear end installed. I just bolted it on my little stud I welded on there, and I'm working on spring hangers. Like I said, the rear end is so wide, so I've got some angle iron welded on here. I'm just tacking it and fitting it up to the spring. It's 2 1/4 between these, plus like a 1/16 for a little bit of slop, and it goes around the spring, and then the U-bolts go in here. Good. I've already got the one welded up. This one I'm just fitting up to make sure it's good, and I'm going to paint them, and then we can slide the rear end in here. I'm also thinking about some snubbers. I found I got the snubber here. We might attach this to the frame up over the rear end here, so the rear end can bottom out on a snubber and not hit the bang into the frame like the 10 bolt was. But we'll get to all that next time, so stay tuned. Part 2 of the 9-inch install in the 37 Buick coming up next time at the Quick Speed Shop.